Hello, 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 and welcome. This is week 2, and we are going to be going over getting your ish in writing. When it comes to being an agent, independent contractor, no matter what you do, your business is all dependent on what you can get in writing, and that contract is pretty much law. And that's how you're able to grow your business by being able to get your commissions or get your set rates or anything else. So it not only protects your income, but it also covers your butt to know that you are representing this client, and it allows you to have a mutual understanding of what the expectations are. So, hi, I am Stephanie Stewart out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I am brokered by Epic Realty, but this message is really for all agents out there utilizing these two systems. Today, I will be going over Zipforms, which is where we find our forms for Wisconsin to put everything in writing, and then I will be going over Skyslope, which is one of the systems that we use here at Epic, just of how to submit those things, and then how everything is pretty much done for you in Lights Up. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so first we're going to go over zip forms. Zip forms is going to be how you go ahead and get your forms, like I was saying. So you're going to start with your username and password. If you forgot your username or password, there are buttons below, but if you know them, they'll be able to pop right up. So mine is going to pop up in my transactions form. What some people's will look like is this when they first log in. And that's fine. It just pretty much tells you what you have going on. But for me, I'm in my documents a lot, so I really just want to know what clients I'm working with currently. When you first get started and or you switch brokerages, you're gonna start by clicking your little photo. Well, it won't be a photo of you unless you made it a photo of you, but it would be like an icon. So this might be like blank the little gray dude. You're gonna go to profile and settings. You're gonna make sure that your name is correct, your email is correct, phone number, your license number, and what state you are affiliating with. So all the states will be here, but me, I'm in Wisconsin, so this is gonna go to Wisconsin. You also have the option to do an email signature. So this is going to go on all of your outbound notifications when you're sending anything. So here I was able to just put one of my cards in here. So it has my phone number, my email, things like that. But usually when we are in contact with my clients, they already know that. But it's just kind of to push that as a reminder of, hey, if you know anybody else who's looking for residential or commercial real estate, let them be sure to call me. Your brokerage may have different statements as far as like for wiring instructions and to know that the message is supposed to be confidential and kept between you and the client. So you might have some confidentiality notices or important notices that are down here. And here you can format it, create the different font, bold it. You can do whatever you want. Everything will be here. If you would like to put one there, you can. If you do not, you just unclick it and it's no longer included. You're going to go to save. Now you do have your sign in and security where you can have your username. You can change if you want to add your mobile and email for extra security, you can. Your office. If you are with a different brokerage and or you are just starting as far as your real estate journey, this may be pre-populated, but for the most part, you will have to fill it in. And it's kind of a once and done type thing. So the name is the name of the brokerage, company information, the address and phone number for that broker. You're then going to save it. Now, this will only apply to new transactions. If you have other transactions in here already that you did in the past, maybe with your other brokerage or whatever, all of those will say that previous brokerage. But once you put in a new transaction, a new form, you do something and you push the word new, now it will have all of the new stuff on there. You're going to be sure to save it. Your forms, you're going to make sure that your forms are already in here. So for here, I have the Wisconsin's Realtor Association forms. Um, I don't even know what that is, but it was in there. If there are any issues, there is a 1-800 number. You can click the little help button right here where they'll go ahead and be able to help you with different things. All the other stuff, I will honestly admit, I don't think I've ever clicked any of these buttons, but it will also tell you, what your current MLSs are, all that jazz. Now, not saying none of that is important, but really all you really want to make sure you have is your office and your form so that when you are pulling forms, you're pulling from the right forms. So one thing for me that I think is really easy is that when you go to templates, you have the option to create a new one where you just click new. You can do new listing or new offer to purchase, new lease, whatever your niche is, you can go ahead and do that. So for me, I already have mine set up and I have one for my buyers and one for my sellers. So for my buyers, there's buyer's agency agreement, the offer to purchase. So as we're submitting offers, and then you have your post offer to purchase. I'd recommend adding the folders here, and you can add whatever folders you want, but I would say these are the basic three that you're going to need. Once you go into buyer's agency agreement, you're going to come over here to all forms and you're going to type in the form you want. You can either type in the number, WB50, WB11, WB whatever, or you can go down the actual list and go to the little arrow and then you would click add. Or, well, let me go to one that's not on there. If I wanted to do the rental, I can go here and I can do add form. The ones that are blue are already being in use as if you already had them. So on mine, you will see some of them that are highlighted, and it's only because I already had them in here. So once you get all your forms in here, I would recommend in your buyer's agency folder to put the WB50, which is the residential pre-agency agreement. Now, it had an optional use of May 15th of 2025, but we are mandatory to use this form as of July 1st of 2025. You are going to use this agreement before you go on any showings with any clients. When you first meet somebody, say it is a Zillow, Redfin, realtor, any kind of lead, even if it's a spear or whatever else, you kind of already have a connection or something to say that I am the expert in this field, but you do not want to assume agency until we get it in writing. So when we go on showings, the potential buyer does not have to say, yes, I want you as an agent. They have the ability to meet you. They have the ability to shop around with other agents, but it's your job to make sure you stand out. But we also have to make sure we are in code. So what I really, really love about this form is it goes over the buyer relationships with agents. So one thing that I do on mine is I go over here to tools, I go to highlight, and on all of them, I make sure, because what I did notice is that a lot of my people, they don't really read stuff, and that's fine. But I want to make sure that I highlight these three things just to make sure if you don't read anything else, you understand what the difference is. Pre-agency means you open the door. You are not going to negotiate. You are not going to write an offer. You're not going to give your expert opinion. You are opening the door and saying, hey, voila, this is 123 Main Street. What do you think? As a customer, that kind of goes into this pre-agency. You technically are representing the seller as a sub-agency type agreement because we don't have an actual buyer's agency sign yet with this buyer that says, hey, I choose you, firm A, to represent me against firm B, D, E, whatever, the listing is. This also gives you a time to be able to explain all the paperwork because when you give your buyers a 14-page document of a buyer's agency agreement, they just want to know how much the cost is and how soon can we go look at houses. So as a customer, you're not necessarily giving your expert advice, but you are giving them things like the real estate conditions report. You are giving them the general facts about the property that would affect its safety and or ability to, maintain the structure. If that person decides they want to be a client, you're going to say, hey, this gives you full brokerage services. This allows me to negotiate for you. This allows me to put your best interests at hand. This allows me to be able to protect you and not have so many other people, kind of against you. If the seller already hired their listing agent, they're represented by their agent. If I am now a sub agent, I'm not really protecting you per se. My interest is to the seller. However, it would make more sense as a buyer to be represented and have somebody in your best interest as well. So it allows to be able to kind of I don't want to say soften the punch, but soften the blow as far as getting into that buyer's agency signed because some people just don't want to. Now, for some people, you can go, I'm not gonna say some people. There is an option on here to add compensation. While you are in pre-agency, you can choose to be paid, whether this is a $20 per house or $500 flat fee, whatever. So I've seen some agents do this as far as, oh, I showed them 100 houses and then they didn't do anything. I got nothing from it. Our job is we don't get paid until something closes. So you are able to put something in here. So I can say $500 fee to see houses only. But then this does not go into the buyer's agency contract. So then how does those terms kind of go? But now keep in mind anything that's in here, it's not pocket money for you. It has to go through the firm. They're going to take their splits and whatnot out, and then you get what's left. So for the most part on here, I just write NA, but everybody can do what they want to do. I'm not telling you what to do on your paperwork. This form will go ahead and say that your real estate commission is negotiable. You can't just say it's this flat fee. If that buyer wants to negotiate, you have to let them to be able to negotiate. Fair housing, we're not going to discriminate rather on race, color, sexual orientation, or any of the protected classes. What I say is, I don't care what you do in your free time, don't hurt me, and it's not an issue. And it's usually a little chuckle, but it's kind of one of those things like we can't say we're not going to go to any blank type houses or anything like that. It's completely unlawful and we have to be able to be non-biased. We do not give information about registered sex offenders. People move all the time. So what we do is we do offer them the website as well as the phone number in order for them to call about their property of interest. If this is their dream home, will it make a difference if there's a sex offender that lives on the same block? But this is on that buyer to do their own research prior to writing an offer. It will go off of, we'll tell you all your duties and it gives you the expectations as far as what pre-agency is. So we're giving you the material, certain material adverse facts. We're treating you fairly and honestly. We're providing a reasonable skill and care. We are working in confidence that we are working within our ability. The buyer is going to sign. You can either pre-write their name or you cannot. In your template, do not. In your template, keep this blank. When you go into Skyslope, you can add those, but you can always add your brokerage. You don't have to keep typing that and then type your name. That's going to be it for the WB50. We'll save our changes because I highlighted some things and I want that to show up in my other ones. So then it's going to kick you back. And before we had the disclosure to customers and disclosure to clients, if somebody decides that they want to only be a customer, they don't want you to be in, they want you to have that sub agency. What you're going to do is you're going to have them just do this disclosure to customers. Now you are putting it in writing what the expectations are, what you can and cannot do, what is all of that jazz. They're going to sign it. Yay, they're a customer. If they say, hey, I want to be protected in my best interest and I want you to represent me, you're going to go to your buyer's agency agreement. Now, it does give you the option to open your previous workspaces, but for this one, we're going to do a start a new workspace because we want the new buyer's agency agreement. For every buyer's agency agreement, it is up, or the WRA does say that we need to include the buyer's agency brochure. So this is from the WRA, which goes over what a buyer's agent is, and it gives them a more in-depth if they have questions of why they should hire a realtor. This should go in every buyer's agency form because it gives them not necessarily thousands, but it gives them more reasons of why they should hire a realtor, why, your compensation is important, equally important. This is in the template, so it will say buyer, but when you do your new transaction, it will put the actual buyer's name there. So it goes over what multiple representation is, because for the most part, when they look at the buyer's agency agreement, that's the first time they're going to see a lot of those words. So it allows them to be able to understand what they're signing before they actually sign anything. When you do your WB36, your buyer's agency agreement, it's going to populate your brokerage and whatnot. For some, I know when I was with a different brokerage, it populated up there. In the template, it will just kind of be the actual form as the WRA has it. as well as the optional date and the mandatory date. So this is the newest form as of 8/15/2024. Always be sure to look into your forms to make sure they did not create a new form. You always want to make sure that you are using the most up-to-date form and you want to keep it legal. So you're gonna do your price range. Your price range can be anything from 0 to 500,000, whatever number you want. This will vary depending on what buyer you have, but as far as a general template, for people who are looking for something that is move-in ready, it's about within that range here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. If they're investors, it'll say like 0 to 30,000, whatever. Now, you can also stipulate different changes in here. So excluded properties, I just put commercial properties. Um, because it's not that they can't buy a commercial property, it's that you have a different commercial buyer's agency agreement, and if the terms are just a little bit different. You're going to exclude any properties prior to the agreement. So say they have their own property listed. We're going to exclude that property because why would they want to buy the property that they're trying to sell? Um, or if you have, if that buyer has like protected properties with a different agent, that might go there. Because that other agent already showed them the house, already kind of had whatever they had, so they kind of have that prior agreement. Mostly I just use this for listings. Limited exclusion properties, you can, I just put NA, but it's any other properties excluded in the agreement. Your commission can be whatever you want it to be. You can say 2.4%, you can say 2%, you can say whatever percent you want it to be. There is no such thing as a standard or a set rate. That is why the whole lawsuit kind of went about. No one can tell you as an entrepreneur how much you want to be paid. But of course, if you put a number in here like 20%, you may not have as many people that want to continue working with you as somebody that has a lower percent. Now, just because you have a lower percent on here, this is the money that you need to operate your business. Do not try and get the most people trying to be a discount agent because you feel like, oh, because I'm cheaper, they're going to come. People who like your services and like your business structure, they're going to pay the cost no matter what. People who want Gucci, go to Gucci. People who want Coach, go to Coach. People who want Walmart or Target or Kmart, they go to what they want to go to because of what they like. People pay for the person, they pay for the business experience. It does not necessarily relate to the firm. Different firms may tell you otherwise, but I'm going to tell you what I tell you. Um, it's a percentage of the final sales price. That final sales price is going to be minus seller's contributions if they do a seller's credit or whatever else payable to your brokerage at the time of closing. The commission is earned at the time of closing, but there are different little things in here that says that commission could be due and payable even if the property doesn't close, but for the most part, it's at closing we get paid. Other compensation you can add in here if you have a transaction coordinator that is an extra fee. You can put that in there. You can put anything that does not relate to your actual job description as a realtor. It cannot be this is the fee for me putting it in the MLS. This is the fee for me searching properties for you. This is the fee for me writing your contract. It can't be that. It has to be something else. So, one thing that could be done is for foreclosure properties, bank owned for properties, sometimes they have a third party application, which is usually up to about $200 here. Change the price based off your area. So it might say 123 Main Street is listed for sale, but it is a bank foreclosure. It is a REO net property, and they have a $200 application fee due at closing. As the realtor, if that's not your house, I recommend you not paying that fee for your buyers. However, you can put in here and just tell your buyers, hey, if you get a foreclosure property and they have a fee, you're going to pay said fee at closing. And usually they say, okay. It will also go over your cooperations, your firm duties, what earnest money is. Now, these things are also ways for you to do your buyer's agency kind of like PowerPoint presentation, or if you do like a one-on-one. A lot of times, these are the first times that people are going to see these words. So I want you to make sure that you are doing it in a way in in English terms, in I would say in the most simplest terms as possible, just because these are legal contracts that lawyers have made. And the traditional person may not know what multiple representation is at all. But it's up to you to describe it to them so that they can select which one they want. Here, you can either click it, whichever one you want or not. So one of them is going to say the same firm may represent me and the other party as long as the same agent is not representing us both. So firm Epic Realty has a listing. Buyer goes to an agent in Epic Realty and they say, hey, I like 123 Main Street. Okay, that's cool because the same agent is not representing the same person. If that buyer calls up listing agent and say, hey, I want to write an offer, you depending on how the listing and the buyer's agency is written, because they get to choose, you can talk about it. You may have to pass that off to another partner in your firm. So say, hey, this is my listing. You requested the same agent not represent you both, or my seller said they don't want the same agent representing both. So I'm going to pass you on to coworker CBD or CFG, C whatever. Um, and then you can go ahead and do that. If you're going to have the same firm represent you and the other party, but they must remain neutral, this is saying that if I have a listing and one of my buyers from my database says, hey, I really, really like that condo at 123 Main Street. Can I go check it out? I say, oh, great. That's my listing. Sure. You can go ahead, you can show them the property, you can write the contract for them, but you are going to remain neutral. You're not going to say anything that is going to help the seller more or the buyer more. You are neutral. Now, some states do not do multiple representation without designated agency. It has to be two separate agents. So in your state, all of them will, change, but in Wisconsin, we do have the option to do it, so you can. And then if that person does not want the same firm to represent you, um, then if you see a listing at Epic Realty and your agent is, I'm sorry, if you're the agent at Epic Realty and your buyer sees one at, I don't know how to explain that. Let me try. I'm an agent at Epic Realty. This buyer is with an agent at Shore West or something. That's cool because they're not in the same firm. If this has an Epic buyer and this is an Epic listing, they don't want them in the same firm. So they want to go to a whole nother firm. Sometimes the easiest way is just to say, hey, we'll just remain neutral, but keep in mind this is all negotiable, and the person can choose if they only want listings from other firms than yours, if they want in the same firm as yours, and if they want two different agents or one agent. Gets kind of tricky, but yes. Sub agency means you are working with the listing firm or the other firm they have selected to be a customer. Confidentiality. Confidentiality is whatever that client wants confidential. They may want their divorce confidential. They may want their pre-approval confidential, anything. But you would put that there, and then anything that is non-confidential, unconfidential. You're going to do things like information pertaining to the transaction per buyer approval. So this may be the pre-approval. This may be title commitment. This may be different things that needs to be going to the third party. This is the thing that covers you that's saying you have other clients and your other clients have needs too. So if you have a buyer that's looking at a property that another one of your buyers is looking at, you're not going to say, hey, I got buyer so and so over here looking at the same property and they're thinking about going low. So you should go high to get the property. No, you're not going to do that. You're not going to discriminate. If there is a dispute, there's going to be a dispute resolution. Sometimes you just need a mediator. Sometimes you just need a third party before we go and take legal action. Property dimensions, we are not going in there with the tape measure to go off of, each room size. If it is important to that buyer, the buyer should verify those property dimensions. If they need a 22-foot door, they have to go in there and say, hey, this is big enough, or budget in the expenses to make that wider if they so choose. It will also go over different definitions. So, what an adverse fact is, what the buyer actually is, what deadline days are, the difference between business days and regular days, the firm, the interest. So, it'll go over all of these kind of descriptions. But some people will see this and say too many words and they won't look at it. So, that's why the buyer's agency brochure adds some colors, adds some pictures, adds a little razzle dazzle so that people may be more inclined to actually do that. So you're going to fill it down in the back and the bottom. You're not going to put this in. You can populate it per that buyer. You're going to put your information, your broker. You're going to put in how you want to communicate. So for me, it is my email, and that's educate to own. You're going to attach the WRA Buyer's Agency brochure. You're going to put the date that you're going to sign the document, and then it goes out to, now I'm not going to put this in the template because everybody's going to be different and we don't want to keep having to change that. But theoretically, when you do make these, you want to make them for maybe 3 months for the pre-approval, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. It all depends on how long you plan on working with that person. Now, this agreement can cancel as soon as they write an offer on a property, or it cannot um, cancel at the end of an offer. So, say you have an investor and they want to buy 16 properties. You're not going to do a new buyer's agency for each property. It's going to just say within this time period, we can go buy whatever. You're going to put your name and your brokerage. You're going to make sure you save it. And that way, all of your forms will then be on there, or all of your templates will apply to every new transaction. Now, your next folder is going to be your offer to purchase. So here, I want you to go over here to your forms and I want you to download all of your offer to purchases. So there's the residential condominium. There is going to be, so this is the WB14. There's going to be the residential. So it's going to be your WB11. Vacant land. That's going to be the WB13. Offer business without real estate. You might not do that. That's a broker thing, but that's a WB17. The business with real estate. So like going into kind of commercial, WB16. The addendum A is going to add your different clauses. Like you're going to do your offer to purchase, the buyer's name, and then if they want to close at a certain place, if they want a certain testing contingency, they want right to cure. So it's just extra provisions that are not in the regular offer to purchase. But you can add, say they want a map or a survey. If they are FHA or VA, like so VA, you need to click this to say, hey, this person is, a VA person. If it is a condo, you need to write in how much the condo association is per month. If you want a seller's credit, you're going to put in the seller's contribution, how much you want there. If they want a home warranty, you're going to either write NA or you're going to keep it, or you're going to put an X. Some people will keep it blank, and I don't really like that. I say either mark it as an X if you want it, or put it as an NA as not applicable. It does not apply. That way we can put in what we want to put in. Flood insurance, if the property is on a floodplain, you may want to add those things if you want zoning, things like that. So here you can put in things like your firm address, the firm's license number, all of your stuff. This will change per property, but some of those things you can kind of just put in. And that can go and attach to any of these offer to purchases. So if I was doing a regular offer to purchase, I would write the date that it was written on. If I am the agent of the buyer, the agent of the seller list firm, so like I'm a sub agent, meaning this buyer decided to be a customer, or I am the listing agent and the buyer's agent. You're going to write down the buyer's name or LLC. You're going to write down the address. You're going to write down in the city of blank county or in the village of blank county, in the blank of whatever county. You're going to just be as specific as possible. You're going to put into your dollar amount list price. For now these I would keep these blank because these are going to vary for each property. But things I did include were things like the range, the stove, the refrigerator, dishwasher, washer, dryer. So every time, usually these are included, but if they're not, it's just a really quick erase. Seller's personal property, because that never goes with the property. These are going to be kept blank because you can put it in as you go. Property address will be blank. 5 business days, you can put 3 or 4 or however many you want. I usually leave these blank because these do vary, these do change. And if you already struck it in the template, I want to say it's a little bit harder to take it off later, but I will verify when we go to that next slide. Your real estate conditions report, when you go to the MLS and they tell you what date it was, you're going to put that there. These people go past this so many times. This is probably your most important page in your whole offer to purchase. This talks about the defects and when you have a in home inspection, what you can call out. So, cracks in the foundation, electrical system, plumbing system, windows, basement, leaks, carbon monoxide. All of these things are things that you can ask for in negotiations if they're not right, because you have the right, that buyer has the right to a safe property. If they're going to do an inspection, you can mark for inspection however many days. You can change this 12, 14, 10, depends on the buyer. I always go through this with my buyer. I don't just do a preset. It's a preset for me because it's easy to do to put in, but every time I go through and offer to purchase with my buyer, I need to actually ask them, hey, can you pay the inspection in 14 days? So that means if we go under contract today, you have 2 weeks to when it's due, not when you have to pay for it, when it's due. So, do you have the money for the inspection within these 14 days? That way you kind of run into buyers being stressed and or not doing certain precautions. Like for instance, some people may want to do radon, but because they don't have all the money for the inspection, they may forego their radon test. Um, and then they want to come back and do it later. It's a lot easier to write the offer and put it all in now than to make it appealing and then later be like, oh, wait, I want an inspection. Oh, wait, I want a radon test. Oh, wait, I want blah, blah, blah. So just kind of put that out for your buyer. If it is finance, it's going to be finance, however many terms. This is where your mortgage calculator is going to come in, or you're going to actually have a conversation with that buyer's lender and say, hey, I need a loan estimate. What are these numbers? The Fed rate does not equal the interest rate for the bank. It's all based off of the buyer's numbers. So it should not exceed 8%, theoretically. But if you see that buyer has a pre-approval and they have a 10% interest rate, guess what you have to do? Write 10%. Now, if that buyer only has a 5.5 interest rate, I would probably still do 6 or maybe a 6.5 just in case things change. You would still be within range in your contract. Um, let's do 7. Oops. And then you do something weird. And then it all turns blue. Okay, there we go. If they're doing seller financing, now keep in mind we cannot write up agreements for seller financing. That person has to go to an actual real estate attorney and they have to draft up what those terms are. So if they're doing a rent to own or they're doing any kind of seller financing, this has to go through a real estate attorney. We cannot do this. If the person's paying cash, you're going to put an NA and all of these other things. You're going to write how many days it takes you to get that print off from your buyer that they had cash in their funds. I'm cash in their funds. If they have cash in their account. The appraisal, if it's finance, it will most likely have an appraisal. You can put whatever amount of days, 20, 25, 15. It all goes based off of your buyer. and what they typically have in the bank to make these things. Because think about it this way: you just paid rent on the first, you are going into buying a property. You have an inspection of $400 to $500. You have a maybe a radon test of additional $100 to $200. You then have an appraisal, which is $600. The bank may charge their fee or whatever else. So just think, they may have it, they may not, but we want to be able to be as open communication as possible to make sure that that buyer is taken care of. If they need to, if they're selling a property in order to buy this property, this is going to be filled out, the closing of buyer's property and the bump clause. If the property is already under contract and you are a secondary offer, you're going to write an X in here. I wrote in the template NA just because these are not everyday occurrences. These are kind of like run-of-the-mill type things. For your taxes, you're going to make sure the line 366 is marked. We want the real estate, the net general real estate taxes for the preceding year. And we want them to be able to, when we close, we want the previous owners to pay the taxes to the day before closing, and the day of closing moving forward, we want it on the buyers. Even though our real estate class taught us how to do mill rate and everything else, I think these are going to more so be in different areas, and that just may be what they do in those municipalities. Title evidence, seller has to be able to give you clear free title. What you want to make sure you do is right here where it says sellers or buyers. Who do you want to pay for the gap endorsement? So seller should provide gap if you don't do anything, it'll automatically say sellers. But if you add that little strike through, it'll add that extra. I said what I said. I said, but the seller is gonna pay for it. They have to give you a clear title. If the property is leased, you're gonna write on if they have either a written or an oral lease. Again, you're gonna go through your tools. You're gonna do the strike through, and then you're going to strike through whichever one it is. If they do not have a lease, if it's not rented, you're gonna write NA. Make sure you read your contracts. Make sure you know what they say, because when something hits the fan, I guarantee you the answer that you're going to be looking for is going to be somewhere in here. At least 3 days prior to closing, we're going to do a buyer's walkthrough. This is going to make sure that all of the property is cleaned out, it's free of debris and all that other jazz. We're gonna make sure that the seller is actually moved out, and if we did work in post occupancy, which is the seller on stays in it after closing, do we have that in writing somewhere? And it goes over how the buyer can default and how the seller can default. The buyer is going to end up defaulting if they don't submit their earnest money on time, if they um don't meet their deadlines on time. There's different ways that the buyer can default, just like the seller. The seller could not make the fixes that they said they were going to do. Those are all defaults. Now, the thing is, as the realtor, you cannot say, oh, Mr. Seller, you're wrong and we're going to sue you and blah, 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 blah. Wrong. All you do is the contract. All you can say is this is a contract that says you're going to buy XYZ property for X amount of dollars. This says that this buyer is going to do it. If you're going to agree, cool, we'll go to closing. If you're not going to agree, we need to do a cancellation agreement. We need to mutually agree how we're going to deal with the earnest money, how we're going to deal with all that other jazz. Now, I have no idea how I raise my hand or how to put the hand down, but it'll be all right for now. Again, about the sex offenders, we don't know. If the person does not live in the United States, they are a foreign person, the government will withhold an extra tax. So that's what this says. If they're a non-foreign person, they will not hold that extra tax. It's more so just to make sure that that person does not run off. Now, new to our contracts, line 543, you can request the seller to pay the commission to buyer's firm. So what this was is that the sellers felt like we were kind of just throwing in fees and they weren't being made aware of how much they were paying. So here we can say We want you to pay 2%, 2.4, 2.5, 3%. Whatever your fee is, you can ask them to pay all of it, some of it, or none of it. Sometimes I've had buyers who just say, hey, let's work out the best deal with the seller, and then I'll pay your commission. Cool. You're going to write your name, your brokerage, you're going to write your email address, and then the addendas that are usually attached. A is going to be that first one we went over, so those additional provisions. S is going to be the lead-based paint. Real estate conditions report is the conditions report that goes with the property. Name, brokerage. And then you're going to keep that blank. Now, I have only gone over the offer to purchase. Your leaders and or I may do another video later where we will go over these other forms, but now I want to go over the post offer to purchase. After you are under contract, when you do your inspection, say the property had an inspection, you're going to say, hey, it was offered on this date, accepted on this date, this was the address. We're either going to maybe change the closing date, maybe change the purchase price, maybe say seller hereby agrees to make these corrections and buyer waives the inspection contingency. We're going to do things like that to make changes to our agreement. It has to be signed by both parties. It has to have a deadline date. If it has anything attached to it, you can add attachments. One thing I would recommend is when you are doing one for an inspection, do not write inspection report right here. Leave it blank and just have the amendment. The reason why is because it automatically includes the inspection report and it may cause a problem with the lender later. So leaving it blank just doesn't include anything. It just says here's the fixes. The lender may or may not get this amendment because it doesn't change like the purchase unless it changes the purchase price. It doesn't necessarily change the terms of it. It just changes it just says fixes or whatever needs to be done. If you're going to do a purchase price change or a seller's credit change, I would do that on another amendment. There is no limit on how many amendments you can do, but I would do it on another amendment just to save you some trouble and stress later. Trust me, do it on another amendment. So now that is the buyer side. Now, when we go back to templates and we do our listing side, I only have one folder because for the listing, you pretty much only have the listing. So if it is the business, if it is a regular listing, if it is a commercial listing, vacant land, cool. So say we are going to, and then you're going to have your addendum S, which is the lead-based paint. Any property built after, no, before 1973, 1978, needs a lead-based paint. Just says somewhere down the line they didn't know that you didn't have to use lead paint or you couldn't use lead paint. It may be in there. Don't eat the paint. It's pretty much what that says. Um, your real estate conditions report. What I would say is don't even do this one. This is more so just so you know what's going to be on here. The reason why I'm saying don't do this one is because it is all automated for you in Skyslope. So some brokerages may have like a wire fraud form or an affiliate disclosure saying different companies they do business with and they may get compensated for. So just kind of depends on what you're doing. But all the listing contracts are pretty much kind of self-explanatory. You're going to put in the address, whatever city it is, whatever they're including, whatever they're excluding. If there is a certain, the price point they want to list it for, how you're going to advertise this. If it is just putting it in the MLS, you're going to say just putting it in the MLS. Whatever you put here, you have to actually do. So don't say you're going to give them the platinum package 5,000 and all you did was put on the MLS. So make sure you're writing what you can cash. The commission to the firm, you can do whatever you want to do. I've seen some firms do 4%. I've seen some do 6. I've seen some do 7. I've seen some do 13. There is no set fee. You can do whatever you want to do. In the event of that commission, this is the total number. This total number can be split down with someone else. So say that co-broke, you say, hey, Mr. Seller, I want to do a 6% listing. Co-broke gets two, I get four, or we split down the middle. And I actually kind of hate that. You might do 3% and the other person gets 3%. That way it's split in the middle. The way I see it is, yes, I may have went to go find the listing. I may have done the marketing, but if the buyer doesn't come to buy it, then neither one of us gets paid. So we equally did the amount of work. Same thing with a dispute resolution, same thing with fair housing, same thing with disclosures to clients. It gives them a breakdown of what your responsibilities are and what the expectations are. Again, it gives them the opportunity to choose how they want to be represented. If they want the same firm representing them, different firms representing them, or if the same agency or the same firm can, but different agents have to do it, or if they do not care if it's the same agent. Confidential information, anything that the seller does not want other people to know. Non-confidential information, anything that is fair game. So that might be survey reports, seller updates. That could be anything. We'll go over more definitions. You're going to write down your name, brokerage, and the delivery of documents, your email, real estate conditions report, addendum S, lead-based paint. Those are typically the things that are kind of included in an offer. And then the terms will change depending on when you write the offer. Name, firm, date will change based off when you finish the offer. Or I'm sorry, the listing. So the listing part is actually really simple because after that, everything else is marketing. These are the only forms you need. 1, 2, 3, depending on if it's commercial or residential. Now that is all it really is for Zipforms. I mean, when you go to transactions, you're gonna go to new, you're gonna do the classic. If it's a listing, click listing. If it's a buyer, you're gonna click buyer, name. I'm gonna type in the person's name. If I can spell my name right. If it's residential, now your templates, so that's everything we just did. You can literally go right to buyer, save, and now the name will pop up, documents, all of your templates will pop up already, where now all you have to do is click it. All the highlights are already still there. All what you wrote was already still there. All you gotta do is type in your buyer's name. So all you have to do. And their name will populate down here if you forget how to spell it. Totally has happened before. Same thing when you go to offer to purchase. Click the offer. Everything is already pre-populated that you wrote in. Now all you gotta do is tools, strike. Which one are you? Okay, I'm their agent. Cool. What's the address? 123 Main Street. Okay. It's in the city of Milwaukee, city of Greendale, city of Waukesha. You're going to put in the dollar amount, what they want. Now, this can say the range, refrigerator, dishwasher, washer dryer. Like, say that's was already on the MLS under what it included. That person may want the cabinets, the standing cabinets in the kitchen, or the TV stand in the living room. So sometimes people will, sellers will like add extra stuff that's in the house kind of just to get rid of it, and that's okay. But that's not gonna go here. That's gonna go on the bill of sale. The lenders will not allow like personal property to be sold with the loan, just regular like appliances, main things that are come with the house. So you'll do a separate bill of sale to include those other things. Not included, seller's personal property. Binding acceptance, some people give 24 hours, some people give 12 hours, some people give a day, 2 days. All depends on how your negotiation tactics are. Just click it, click the date, it'll populate. Closing. Closing needs to be sometime between, I would say a minimum of 30 days for lending. So if we write it for today, 7, 14, 21, 28, 29, 30. We can't close on a Saturday. So we will most likely push that to that Monday. Or Mondays are kind of crazy. We might want to push that till Tuesday. Make sure that you are in communication with the lender that the deal can actually get done. Do not write checks that you cannot cash. Earnest money, how many days it'll take. So just like I was talking about before of how to input these, you're going to go off the MLS. You're going to look. So I'm going to do a quick one just because we are running low on time, but that's okay. So say random property, but cool. This one's 230. So right here it says inclusions, fridge, stove, washer, dryer. We're gonna go back here to what it includes, and it only includes the stove, refrigerator, washer, dryer. So we would erase dishwasher. Just that simple. Here, you're gonna go to documents, seller's conditions report is your real estate conditions report. And it's gonna have a date on here. So the date that they signed it, 9/2. Here, you're gonna write 9/2 for real estate conditions report. Oh, I actually didn't get to that part. Earnest money. So this specifically says, and say anything about earnest money. So what I would then write is either the listing firm, do strike through and do listing firm, or what some people will do is they'll just do other, and then they'll say seller's title company. Or the buyer might have their own title company. So you'll put in the buyers. So when I was saying about that, the document, seller's condition 9/2, you would put that 9/2 here where it has the property conditions. Now with this one, it does say that the seller was not required to fill it out. So with this one, I would actually, I wouldn't do 7/2. I would do NA, as in like not applicable, not provided. If there was one that, let me just go down randomly. If there was one that had an actual conditions report, you would go to when that person signed it. So this was 1/7/2025. Okay. Goes over all what you can do. Inspections, we already have that preset. If your buyer says, hey, I can close in 10 days, you're going to switch that to 10 days. If your buyer says, hey, I really need like 20 days, you're going to write 20 days. It's whatever your buyer can do. Don't make it more stressful. It's already one of the most stressful things they're going to do. But now keep in mind, these are also part of your negotiation tactics. Somebody who has a 10-day inspection period may be more appealing than somebody who has a 20-day inspection period. How long do you want the seller to have the right to cure? Make sure you're doing your strike through and you're marking what you want. Radon. If they want radon and you had NA, that's fine. Delete it. Add it. How many days? They have a total of 20. Maybe do 15. All of this is literally just filling into the blanks. So here you're going to write the type of loan. So this could be a 30-year fixed conventional, 30-year or 5-year ARM. Whatever that pre-approval says, you're going to write on here. FHA 30-year fixed. Cool. Then you're going to use your mortgage calculator either through your app or through your loan estimate through your lender. You're going to write down the numbers because they should pretty much tell them what the fees are going to be. Fixed rate, we went over that. If it's seller financing, if it's cash, they want an appraisal. If they're not selling a property, NA. If this isn't a secondary offer, NA, your primary. Now, your broker and or your team lead will go over these more in detail with you, but that is just the basics of getting it in writing as far as making everything completed. So, say you got done doing this. That's fine. Oh, I probably shouldn't have changed it, but that's okay. I'll erase it later. So say you get through with doing this. What you're going to do is you're going to go to this little arrow. You're going to download it. Now download over here. Cool. If you want to download multiple, you do the same thing. If you happen to get a file and you have to separate pages, what you're going to do, now this is not necessarily a form that you would separate, but say this had a couple of different things, right? I can click this little arrow next to it and go to, oh, nope, it's not even going to be in there. Hold on, let me find one that I've already done. So you can upload a form. You're going to go to Add Doc, go through your browse. We'll just do that one just because it's easy. Import, click all of those. And then I did this one, all right? So now we're gonna go here. You now have the option to do split and rotate. And this allows you to split up a form. So say this was your offer to purchase. You're gonna do page 1 through 5. Say the next one was your real estate conditions report, 5 through 7. And you can just add these splits. And then they will populate down here. And you're gonna go here. You're gonna download. So it downloads to your computer. Download, downloads to your computer. And then going over to Skyslope. You type in your password and whatnot. Now, if you're new, you're going to go to My Account. You're going to make sure all your account is set up, your notifications, your signature. You can change your password, integrations. You can do all that jazz, right? But when we first come, we want to just see our dashboard. It's going to have your current listings and transactions. It's going to have your recent forms and then anything you had that was signed. So here, you're going to go to apps. You're going to go to Digicide. You're going to go to new envelope, no property. Upload, find that doc. Click you. And you can either search your recipients, like there's somebody in your database, so maybe somebody who was already in here. If you do not have anybody, you're going to go to new recipient. You're going to put in their information. Now, I'm using one of my other emails because I don't want anybody to be like, what is that? Okay, so they're going to be highlighted. You're going to click next. Theoretically, all of this would have been filled out. There's going to be a sign here. You're going to go to signature, put the signature and the date. Now, if it's a checkbox, you can check the box. If you need to change the signature, you're going to go to this little triangle and you can click whoever name. Now, keep in mind, this is not a real thing, so it's not the full even contract for that matter, but that where it says signature, you're going to put signature. Where it says initials, you're going to put initials. If you got to change it, you're going to do the arrow. If you need to do somebody's name, you're gonna do the full name. You need to change it, you're gonna change it. Pretty simple. Checkbox for that lead-based paint. There's a buyer waves to do the thing. You're gonna click it, click on this side, click it twice. Check, not check. Cool. If you need to do a text, like additional provisions, put in the thing, get to typing. It'll pop up. If you don't want to do it in that box, you can do it over here because you have more. So say like you messed up and you were like, oh, they added the washer and dryer. You can add a washer dryer. Enter. And then you're going to just put it on the line. The box smaller, put it on the line. Now, this is a quick way to go about it, but if you want it to be uniformed and all that other jazz, you would just go back to Zipforms, fix that line, re-download it, re-upload it. Cool. So then you're going to click send. Here, I would change the name to what it is. So this may be offer to purchase 123 Main. Then you're going to send for signatures. That will go out. If you had to sign something, it'll allow you to sign for it. If you did not have something to sign, it'll just send it out. It'll tell you when they actually go through and sign it. So theoretically, I should get an email that says Stephanie wants you to sign. At least I thought it came to me. It may take a minute to go. I gotta make sure I typed in my email right. But theoretically, it'll come up and say, Stephanie Stewart would like you to sign a document. They just click the button on their phone and then they go ahead and send it out. That is Zipforms. Once you get it, it'll say sign or whatever else. You can go to more. Well, let's go to more, download envelope. Once it's downloaded, you then will send it either in the email to the other agent or whatever you need. If you now need to put it in Skyslope, you're going to go to apps, you're going to go to Skyslope. If you have the person in here already, great. If not, you're going to do create new transaction, representation type, whether it's a purchase, purchase and listing, lease tenant, whatever it is, you're going to click it. So if they are pre-contract, as in they are just, say you're in that pre-agency, you need them to sign documents, you can do pre-contract. Under contract means you have a signed purchase agreement. If you have a signed purchase agreement, they're going to ask you for the MLS number. They're going to populate all of that jazz, and then you're going to just go from there. If you don't have one, you can do your buyer's agency, continue, pre-filling in the information, check is for Wisconsin, Wisconsin sale buyer rep, all that is optional. Buyer's name, so we're going to say test. Okay. So then all of this will populate. You need to do your buyer's agency agreement, so you're going to attach it. You already downloaded. You're going to go through your computer and you're going to click the right download. After you download it, it'll upload it and it'll go here. That will be the same for your offer to purchase, your real estate conditions report. Everything that's highlighted is pretty much what you need. 1978, you're going to attach the lead-based paint. You're going to attach the home inspection report when you get it, the copy of the earnest money. You're going to attach all of that. You're going to put all of these things in here to keep your stuff compliant. You already got it in writing. Now keep it compliant. Once you put all of these things in here, the only thing left will be your CDA. Your brokerage should send you a CDA, a commission disbursement agreement, and go ahead so that that goes to the title company so that you get paid. Once that goes in, you go to closing. They're going to then give you an Alta settlement statement. You're going to come back. You're going to either take a picture of it, you're going to scan it with your printer, you're going to ask them to email it to you, however is easier for your business. You are then going to attach that settlement statement because you know you would have downloaded it. I don't even think I have one right quick, but we'll find it later. Either way, you would upload that settlement statement, and then this will go to green, or it'll go to yellow to not looked at yet. Once it goes to green, that means the broker has already looked it over and they will go ahead and issue out your check. So that was all of getting it in writing and keeping it compliant. Those are the forms that we needed to go over, as well as how to upload it into Skyslope. So the good news is this part is the easy part. Um, Now they do have some quick action buyer stuff in here. So maybe if you don't use it forms, you may be able to just do it in Skyslope already. Let me just, you gotta kind of go through stuff, but that's okay. Oh, there's a WB11 and the WB. Okay, okay. So if you go to next, welcome to life where we figure it out. Oh, okay. So the good news about Skyslope is you don't even necessarily need zip forms. If you use zip forms, great. If you don't, you can honestly upload everything already in here. You can even save it as a template, same as we did before. You can save and exit, and you can prepare it for signatures. This way you're able to do everything in one space. You don't even have to remember multiple passwords or anything like that. So that's actually a really good feature that Epic was able to upgrade. I did not know that they upgraded it yet. So cool beans. I'm happy about that. But the benefit is that the forms are already in there. You can put everything in there. You can do templates and everything is pretty much self-explanatory. I just fill in the blanks. So that completes our training this week on getting your stuff in writing, making sure you are staying compliant to put it in all of those um the right forms and knowing when to use those forms. Before you go anywhere with anybody, when you go to a regular business, they ask for the ID, they ask for them to sign in, they ask them to fill out paperwork. You have to do that same thing as an agent, and part of that is doing the WB50, the pre-showing agreement. Part of that is doing the buyer's agency agreement or a disclosure to customers, depending on what that person chooses. Part of that is putting it in the right contract, whether it's the WB11, WB14, WB whatever, as far as what it is, commercial, real estate, condo, land, any of those, making sure all of those are compliant. If you are not sure what you're doing, you need to ask for help, period, point blank. Do as much as you can, but for clarity, always go to your broker, always go to somebody who is more trained in that topic. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm available every Thursday from 1 to 2 p.m. I will talk to you guys later. Have a good day.